With the release of Black Myth Wukong, a lot of people basically got a Chinese fantasy world dropped onto them for the first time. Now, since Chinese fantasy and mythology isn't a worldview that most English speakers are familiar with, I've been seeing a lot of people get this feeling that they can tell there's a lot of culture behind the game, but they don't know exactly where to start or how to get into it. So I'm Chinese and I have a master's in East Asian studies. Black Myth Wukong for me is a really exciting game. I can't even tell you the last time when Chinese mythology, which is such a huge inspiration for me, has gotten so much attention globally. Because of this, I wanted to come on YouTube and show everyone how the Chinese mythological world works. What is a yaoguai? Where do yaoguais come from? What is spirit absorption? What is cultivating? How come everybody in Black Myth Wukong can low-key shapeshift? How do all these things come together in the worldview of Chinese mythology? Now, my assumption here is that most people who are going to be watching this video know at least a little bit about Pokemon, Bruce Lee, and Dragon Ball. Let me tell you, yaoguais and Chinese mythology are in the same universe as these things. So I'm going to use them as reference points when going through the world of Black Myth Wukong. All right, let's get started. Drive by, hanging up at the window, smoking on the end. I'm going to anchor this video around the concept of yaoguais because yaoguai is the main word that the developers took from Chinese straight into English without translating it into something like monster or demon. I'm glad they did that because a yaoguai is not a monster or demon. What makes yaoguais interesting is that they have no direct equivalent in Western mythology or fantasy. The way they appear, their moral status, and how they behave are much more fluid and ambiguous than monsters or demons. By the way, I'm using yaoguais and guais to mean the same thing. Guai is just the shortened form of yaoguai. So let me begin with a simple definition. A guai is a plant or animal that has concentrated enough cosmic life energy to become conscious and gain supernatural powers. Sometimes a guai can also be an inanimate object like a rock or a musical instrument that's ambiently absorbed enough life energy to become sentient. So, plant, animal, or object plus big accumulation of life energy equals yaoguai with powers. Anything can become a yaoguai. Wolf that's cultivated for 200 years and broke through, guai. Blue quartz that's cultivated enough moon energy, guai. Mushroom that absorbed a human lifetime of bad vibes, guai. Yo, this is Franz in the editing booth, and I just want to add one more point here. Yaoguais almost all begin as normal plants, animals, and objects that exist in real life. This is what makes them completely different from Western demons, who were divine creatures but rebelled against God and were thrown out of heaven. It's also different from Western monsters like orcs or trolls who were born supernatural creatures. In Chinese mythology, yaoguais basically occupy this uncanny middle zone between humans and non-humans. They can do certain human things like walk on two legs, talk, put on makeup, pray, but they also retain certain characteristics and abilities of their plant, animal, or object base, like having a furry face, having a mushroom head, or producing light from a head that is actually a lantern. Traditionally, yaoguais are malevolent and capricious creatures. This is their image and behavior in the OG 1,000-year folktales and written stories where they come from. But in Black Myth Wukong and a lot of the best Chinese yaoguai books and films, this isn't always the case. I'm going to unpack why yaoguais are not all malevolent in Black Myth Wukong in another video. In this video, I just want to lay out the basic world-building settings of Chinese fantasy so we can begin with a base understanding of how the whole universe works before we even dive into the complex moral hierarchies that are in it. The closest thing to Chinese yaoguais are Japanese yokai. You might have heard of yokais, which are the Japanese version of Chinese yaoguais. Yokai are the main mythological inspiration for Pokemon. Even in the name, you can hear how they sound similar, right? Yaoguai, yokai, because Ancient Japanese culture was heavily influenced by Chinese culture. So ancient classic Japanese yokai are pretty similar to their Chinese counterparts. There's Kitsune, the fox yokai, which is Huyao in Chinese. There's Furi, the wind cat or Fengli in Chinese. And Jorogumo, the spider yokai, which is Zhizhujing in Chinese. Very broadly speaking though, Japanese yokai have more cute and modern creatures in their roster than Chinese yaoguai. For example, there's the fireplace yokai in Howl's Moving Castle, Calcifer. Karakasakoso, the umbrella yokai. And my personal favorite, Yanari, the squeaky floor yokai. Basically, any small unexplained phenomena can have a yokai behind it. Now, the reason yokai are cuter and more modern is because Japanese artists kept creating new yokais in the modern era, using modern mediums like kamishibai, TV, and manga, of course. And a lot of these newer yokai creations were targeted at children. For reasons that can take up a whole video on its own, Chinese yaoguais didn't really go through this modern update. So they tend to be more ancient, creepy, and mature. But it is still helpful to think of yaoguais in comparison to Pokemon. They can be big, powerful mythological creatures like Gyarados, talking humanoid animals like Meowth, or tools and objects coming to life like Voltorb. So, how do plants, animals, and objects become yaoguais? How are they able to accumulate and concentrate all this life energy in the first place? Well, you see, Chinese mythology and philosophy sees life energy as the most fundamental, basic building block of the world. Everything is made of life energy. Every change is life energy transforming itself. Every being begins as life energy and returns to life energy. Not only is everything made of life energy is the true form of everything. Every other form, from your age to the body you're in to the moves you got, is just a surface manifestation of your life energy state. The true you is your life energy. In Black myth Wukong, this universal life energy is called will. And you can see this in the loading screen description for will. The cosmos begets life, and life begets will. This amorphous essence, what I would say, this essence of life, delights all and serves as currency across realms. In the Chinese version of the game, will is called Ling Yun, literally meaning accumulated spirit. So you can also think of life energy as a kind of accumulation of spirit. All right, so everything, every creature, every mountain, every village is just a manifestation of fundamental life energy in the universe, or will in the game. But how does this explain the origin of yaoguais? This is a fun part for me because we're getting to a key difference between Chinese and Western storytelling. In Chinese fantasy media, mythology, religion, and even philosophy, any type of being can become any other type of being. A normal-ass human can become a god. A snake can become a god. A monkey can become a Buddha. Gods can also get demoted and become pigs or humans. Humans can become yaoguai, and yaoguais can become human. But this doesn't mean that everyone is born an amorphous cloud of energy. You're still born a human, an animal, or a celestial god. The difference is, even if you're born a human, you can become a god. Even if you're born an animal, you can become a Buddha. Yes, some deities are born deities, but a lot of them are also exceptional people who ascended. This guy, he started out as a Qin Dynasty era irrigation engineer named Li Erlang. These guys, they started out as Shang Dynasty generals who were renowned for their skill in warfare. Think about how egalitarian this Chinese fantasy setting is compared to Greek mythology or Western fantasy like Lord of the Rings. Imagine ascending to Mount Olympus through hard work, not because Zeus came down as a swan and fucked your mom. Imagine an orc from Helm's Deep being invited to live and work in the Elven court after showing his battle prowess. This is pretty much what happened to Sun Wukong. American Dream says I can work hard and become successful. Shit, that is nothing compared to the Chinese dream where I can work hard and become a god. There's a reason this "you can become a god" setting never developed in an Abrahamic religion influenced culture, where so many real life wars and persecutions have happened for thousands of years over believing or not believing in the one and only capital God who exists eternally outside of time, outside of space. You need real life polytheistic religion to nurture these kind of stories. And this is what Chinese folk religion is. It's polytheistic. I need to come here and stress how fundamental this worldview is to understanding Yaoguais and the Descent One and Journey to the West and even a lot of other East Asian media like Dragon Ball and Tower of God. Gods are just beings who work super hard, break through all barriers, and become excellent on a cosmic level. And this comes straight from what I explained earlier about life energy. There's only one true basic building block that everything, including gods and Buddhas and immortals, are made of: life energy. This kind of world setting is super different than Western fantasy. There's no elf race, there's no dwarf race, there's no immortal race or Yaoguai race that is set in stone. Your identity is never completely set because you can always ascend or descend into a different type of being. To put it another way, everyone is actually ditto.
Thank you! Now it's time for my assisted ditto!
Because real true you is a flow of life energy. You are formless, shapeless, like water.
You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle.
You put your life energy into a peach, you become the peach. You put your life energy into shiny objects, you become a shiny object. This is why everybody in Black Myth Wukong can low-key shapeshift. Because how you manifest physically isn't what's true and real about you. That shit doesn't matter. Personally, I love how Asian this obsession with formlessness is. If you look into elite Asian culture and you try and find the ultimate expression of something, it's always gonna be the negation of that thing, right? Look at Ronin Kenshin. What sword does the best swordsman in the world use? A sword that prevents him from killing people. Look at Bruce Lee. What's Bruce Lee's fighting style? It's the style of no style.
I do not believe in styles anymore. If you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, you know, as a human being, how can I express myself? Totally and completely.
Bruce was deep into Chinese philosophy, specifically Taoism. The way he saw himself was within the same parameters as the world of Black Myth Wukong and other Chinese mythology. Fundamentally, he is formless and unlimited. So why would he want to put an artificial cap on what he could learn or what kind of fighter he could become? He would just shift into karate in one moment and then shift into Wing Chun in another. So because in the worldview of Chinese mythology, you can basically become anything, your power cap is unlimited. But so is your power floor. You can become a Buddha or you can become a rock. Since there's theoretically no cap to how high you can go, every entity out there is yearning and trying to collect and refine their life energy. If you're a wolf and you know you can level up to God eventually, you're gonna try. This is the motivation for animals and plants to become guais. I guess they could just take it easy and chill, but this is where the unlimited power cap and power floor is a double-edged sword. If someone with more power can demote you out of the celestial court and turn you into a pig, or they can easily wipe you out with one Buddha palm, your existence is very precarious. You're like an ant. Once your wolf or spider ass gains enough consciousness to see how high the ladder of power goes, you're gonna start feeling intense pressure. So you get motivated and you start collecting and refining that energy. All right, so what we've covered so far just provides the world building background for why yaoguais as a type of being are able to exist in the first place. What I haven't explained is, how does a person or yaoguai actually ascend to a higher level of being? How does any particular wolf or rock accumulate enough of this life energy to become yaoguai? And the answer to that is cultivation. So, what is cultivation? Let's say you're a wolf, right? And there's a bunch of life energy everywhere. In the sun, in the wind, in the rabbits you eat. How do you gather and concentrate enough of this fundamental life energy to go from wolf to Yaoguai? The most basic and inefficient way is to just passively absorb it. That's basically how a rock ended up giving birth to Sun Wukong, by just sitting there on Mount Huaguo and absorbing the energy of the sun and the moon. It took a long ass time though, 500 years to be exact. If you want to ascend faster, you need to cultivate. Cultivation is the deliberate collection, concentration, and refinement of universal life energy with the goal of ascending to a higher being. All right, so you might be wondering, what's the difference between cultivating and just eating and living and growing normally? You gotta meditate. Think of meditation and martial arts as organizing your life. But instead of organizing your desk or organizing your drawers, you're organizing the life energy flowing through you. So then they can be better coordinated and you have room for more. There is a whole web novel and manhwa genre called Cultivation that's built around a main character cultivating, breaking through, and ascending. If you want to dive deeper, search for Cultivation manhwa. In the Chinese mythological world where anything can ascend or descend to a different level of being, a yaoguai is born when a plant, animal, or object manages to ascend past their original power level by meditating and doing martial arts. Probably for a few hundred years. After cultivating for a few hundred years, they've managed to accumulate and concentrate their life energy from a diffuse flow of will into a core. I mean, just look at the item description for mind core, right? The mighty employ their corporeal forms, aka their bodies, as furnaces, and their essence, vigor, and spirit as ingredients to forge a potent core. What's going on is you're basically using your body as a container in order to concentrate and compact the life energy inside with meditation and training. This is why in Black myth Wukong, lesser yaoguais leave behind bits of will when killed, and more cultivated yaoguais leave behind cores. Cores are just solidified concentrations of life energy. The way cultivation works is, after you hit a certain limit, after you get up to a certain threshold, any further accumulation of energy will make you break through and turn you into a qualitatively different kind of being, giving you new abilities. Think of like Pokemon evolving when they hit a certain level. Except instead of 3 stages, there's 40 stages. Yeah, that's right. Ancient Chinese philosophy invented power levels. If you know about Dragon Ball, this is going to sound pretty familiar. You keep cultivating your life energy, aka power level in Dragon Ball, and when your power level goes past a certain limit, you change and turn Super Saiyan. This whole concept of cultivating and ascension is where Dragon Ball got the concept of Super Saiyans from. The Saiyans themselves were supposedly just animal apes before, but gained enough cosmic life energy to become intelligent and take human form. So we have to ask at this point, why is everyone in Chinese fantasy so focused on cultivation? Because if you don't have power, you're going to get your ass beat. And if you only have power, but you don't have enlightenment, then other cultivators will not respect you, and you become an acceptable target for them to attack and subdue you as their minion, or kill you and take your life energy. Basically, you're still going to get your ass beat. Alright, so finally we're getting to combat and killing. This brings me to the final part of the video, energy absorption. Meditation and martial arts is just the 2 basic things everyone has to do if they want to cultivate and ascend. If you want to break through faster, there are many ways out there to speed things up. The most obvious way is to take someone else's life energy, which has already been nicely concentrated and refined. In the game, they call this spirit absorption because of how much energy there is when you absorb a core versus when you just train on your own. Very often, you're going to be able to break through and ascend immediately. Think about Cell and Brew in Dragon Ball absorbing people in order to shoot up a power level and shift into their next form. It's the same principle. The other thing about absorbing energy is that whatever memories and knowledge was in the energy you absorb, it becomes yours. Like Kirby and Mega Man learning new techniques by absorbing defeated enemies, this is where it comes from. So this is when we can circle back to yaoguais. Everything is capable of becoming a god, even animals. But on this path of cultivation to godhood, yaoguais do it in an unenlightened way. They're traditionally seen as the bad guys in Chinese mythology because they absorb the spirit, they absorb the energy of humans to cultivate. Sometimes they don't even go that far and straight up eat people to take their energy. Immortals, Buddhas, and humans walking the enlightened path, they don't do that. They have more sophisticated, enlightened ways. At a very basic level, eating people is what separates most yaoguais from normal humans and deities, even though in this world, everybody is cultivating and leveling up. I hope this explains why most of your enemies are yaoguais in Black Myth Wukong. Everyone is free to cultivate and level up, but yaoguais don't cultivate in an enlightened way, so they foolishly attack you and you're free to beat their ass. You might have noticed that the picture of Chinese mythology and yaoguais I just painted for you is very mechanical. Like there's no value judgment in what I just said. There's no moral sides, like who are the oppressors and who are the underdogs. All I've told you so far just explains how the world of Black Myth Wukong and East Asian fantasy works at a kind of settings level. These settings come from the Taoist perspective in Chinese culture. Think of it as like the most foundational world building layer. But this Taoist layer is not enough to answer questions like, why are some yaoguais in Black Myth Wukong sweet and helpful? Why do some yaoguais sacrifice for love? Why do some yaoguais look like Buddhas or are straight up Buddhist minions? Are yaoguais good or bad? Is Sun Wukong a yaoguai or a Buddha or both? Why does the celestial court keep trying to control Sun Wukong? Please let me know in the comments if you're interested in these questions and I'll make another video to address them. To wrap up, I think it's pretty common knowledge that Chinese, Japanese, and Korean culture are deeply influenced by each other and share a lot of foundational building blocks. What I've tried to do in this video is to show you how the Chinese mythological world you're seeing in Black Myth Wukong is not actually that enigmatic and mysterious if you've already absorbed concepts from Japanese and Korean culture by watching anime like Dragon Ball, playing games like Pokemon, or reading cultivation manhwa like Solo Leveling. The world building concepts are the same or very, very similar. If what I said did help you draw these connections, please hit me with that like, subscribe, and notification. As someone dropping their first piece of content on YouTube, your feedback is super valuable to me. All right, peace. Drive by, hanging up out the window, smoking on the